Floyd Mayweather and Logan Paul will officially be going toe-to-toe on February 20th, 2021. The news of the exhibition fight was announced first on Floyd's social media, where he posted an image promoting the fight as well as a link to pre-order the pay-per-view event. Given that this fight was literally announced less than 24 hours ago, the details are still fairly scarce. Aside from the date, it's unclear where the two will be fighting, if fans are going to be permitted, and who is going to be on the undercard. Maybe Jake Paul and his next opponent? Who knows? Truth be told, I didn't think this fight was going to happen, and I'm still in disbelief that it's been confirmed, but as they say, money talks. And there is most certainly money to be made here, so here we are. To no surprise, the news of the fight shocked the world and has people talking both about their excitement to see Logan get beat up and their disappointment that boxing is being turned into a joke of a sport. Now personally, I respect Logan for even thinking of stepping in the ring with Floyd, one of the best to do it. And in regards to making a joke of the sport, well, this one fight alone can turn YouTube fans into casual boxing fans overnight, and truth be told, it seems the UFC has been dominating the fight world for some time, so maybe this isn't such a bad move. Regardless of how you feel, as we know, anything is possible when it comes to sports, especially combat sports. So today on Life's Biggest Questions, we decided to have some fun and ask a question no one thinks could ever become reality. What if Logan Paul KOs Floyd Mayweather? A YouTuber who grew up wrestling with a professional boxing record of 0 wins, 1 loss, taking on a boxer who's been boxing the majority of his life with a record of 50 wins, 0 losses. It sounds like a bad movie premise, but this is real life. And given that clearly anything can happen, why not have some fun and talk about what happens if Logan knocks Floyd out? Now before we do, if you guys could give this video a thumbs up, I'd appreciate it. If we hit 1,500 likes, I'll fight the winner of Logan and Floyd. Alright. Before we go any further, guys, I just want to make something as clear as day. This is a hypothetical question, and I genuinely don't believe Logan would ever knock Floyd out. In fact, my fight prediction is that Floyd either knocks Logan out in the second round, or toys with him and plays very defensively, maybe with his hands behind his back or his hands down, and, at points throughout the fight is just taunting Paul in front of a massive audience, maybe laughing in his face, assuming the pay-per-view does crazy sales. He's just gonna want to put on a show. But let me know your predictions down below. For now, let's get into it. So how all this came to be in the first place, to no surprise, is just a clash of egos. Logan ran his mouth months back, eventually Floyd heard about it, Floyd took it to heart, as he does whenever someone says anything negative about him, and naturally now has to prove to the world that no one could ever speak poorly about him. It seems silly, but this is legitimately how things went down. A professional boxer with a 50-0 record, who is undoubtedly one of the best boxers, if not the best boxer of all time, got upset that a YouTuber, who has only boxed professionally once in his life, against another YouTuber nonetheless, pretty much said he could beat him. What a time to be alive. Floyd's most recent bout was another exhibition match against Japanese kickboxing star Tenshin Nasukawa. Floyd manhandled him, defeating the undefeated star in less than 2 minutes time. When all was said and done, Floyd addressed the fans, thanking them for the opportunity, and showed his appreciation for his opponent too, who after getting knocked down 3 times by Floyd, had the towel thrown in. He was also crying in the middle of the ring. Logan's last fight against KSI went to a decision, which Logan lost after a 2-point deduction for an illegal punch. Good times. To say the fight between these two likely won't be as entertaining as the trash talk that is going to come, well, that shouldn't surprise many, as both Logan and Floyd are quite good at what they do. In this case, it's selling the fight. That being said, I'm still buying the fight, and I'm sure you will too. We're both expecting to see Logan get beat up, but what if he doesn't? Say he knocks out Floyd Mayweather the way Jake was able to knock former NBA athlete Nate Robinson out. First things first, Floyd is still 50-0 because this is an exhibition fight, so it doesn't count on either of their records. And although there would be talks about his reputation being ruined and him no longer being the best of the best, the truth is, one fluke loss doesn't ruin an entire career. Now, some true boxing fans may get upset with this comparison, and I'm not saying that Logan Paul is anything near as competitive or good of a boxer as Andy Ruiz is. But with that being said, after Anthony Joshua lost to Ruiz, the boxing world was pretty stunned. Would Joshua ever bounce back? And then he did, beating Ruiz in their matchup, getting his titles back, and continuing to dominate. Again, I'm not comparing Logan to Andy as much as I'm comparing Joshua losing to what would happen if Floyd lost. Now the big difference here, of course, is that one is a true professional boxer, and the other is a YouTuber who has fought once professionally. So to say that Floyd would bounce back the same way Joshua did is also a stretch, because their situations are incredibly different. To say Logan knocking out Floyd would be one of the biggest upsets and shocks in the history of sports is no understatement. Given Floyd's defensive abilities, with him barely being hit in his last exhibition match, I mean, you're lucky if you hit the guy, so if you do, make it count. And if Logan were able to make it count, well, I'm not so sure if the focus would be so much on Floyd's loss as it would be Logan's win. Of course, there would be memes, people would clown Floyd the way they did Nate Robinson, and his GOAT status would likely be questioned until the end of time. 50-0 doesn't look so impressive when you lose to an entertainer who has no business fighting you in the first place. But still, win or lose, people wouldn't be able to deny the fact that Floyd is still professionally 50-0, and maybe he did just have one off night. He's got plenty of money, He's beaten enough notable fighters. I think it's safe to say, as embarrassing as it would be for Floyd, he'd eventually bounce back and would continue to dominate fights overseas in other exhibition fights. Logan, on the other hand, well, he would be the talk of the town the way Jake was after he beat Nate. The only difference is that Jake beat a retired NBA player. If Logan were able to beat one of the best boxers of all time, the conversation is very different. Well, it seems there are a few conversations to be had. For starters, people likely start to take Logan much more seriously in the fight world. Odds are other professional fighters start calling Logan out to fight them, almost as if it would avenge Floyd's legacy. This would give Logan quite a decision to make, as he would now have a chance to break into the world of boxing and legitimately make a career out of it. Whether he decided to or not would be completely up to him. But if he were able to take down Floyd, he would certainly get the attention of some notable fighters and coaches. Those impressed with Logan's performance would likely push for him to continue his career, and some may even call for his next fight to be in the octagon, given his history as a wrestler and the rivals he's made on social media. It seems the opportunity would be there for Paul, and depending if he wanted to continue his career in the octagon or ring would be entirely up to him. However, it's also quite possible that Logan does just the one fight and then ventures off into something else. It seems that although both Paul brothers are into the boxing scene, Jake is taking things a little more seriously than Logan. That being said, Jake isn't the one now officially taking on one of the best, nor do we know how seriously Logan would take things if he were to knock Floyd out. Odds are there would be at least one more fight in the books for Logan, who would be paid a stupid amount of money to fight regardless of who it was he was going to take on. Maybe Conor McGregor, maybe Manny Pacquiao, or even Jake Paul, and the two brothers duke it out. Who knows? One thing is certain, aside from the amount of money that Logan would make from this fight, and the next fight, assuming he'd sign on, the amount of content the kid would be able to make about the fight, the win, and his potential future career would be insane. He'd be able to do vlogs, as well as the training videos he'd show off how he prepared for the fight in the first place. He'd be able to make YouTube videos calling out other fighters, and for all we know, he even starts getting more invested in the world of boxing. Maybe he gets invited to do commentary on a major fight, or maybe he takes the career seriously and starts to work his way up in the ranks of the boxing world. With all due respect to Logan, although he is quite big and is clearly a good athlete, maybe too late for him to start a career in boxing, even if he were to beat Floyd. If he did decide to pursue a legitimate career in the sport, odds are following his shocking win over Floyd, assuming he didn't take another celebrity money fight, Logan would fight another up-and-coming boxer and probably lose. That fight would be the start of people losing interest in Logan Paul's boxing career, and if he were to lose a second fight in a row, Logan would be chewed up and spit out by the boxing community faster than a piece of juicy fruit gum. It's been a while since I've had one of those. Taste is great, but it loses it very quickly. As is the case with any sports, and especially combat sports, you're only as good as your last fight. If Logan were to not only beat Floyd Mayweather, but actually knock him out, the kid's value would skyrocket. However, following that one fight, Logan would need to give people a reason to keep coming back. A great example of this would be Conor McGregor, who at one point was the biggest name in the fight world and the face of the UFC. Then he lost to Khabib Nurmagomedov, and that man became the new face of the UFC. Conor went on to fight Floyd, which was a huge payday and definitely got people talking, but still, Conor wasn't what he was before. And now, he's starting to build his brand again, beating Donald Cerrone and taking on Dustin Poirier in a few months, hoping to once again prove he's a dominant force in the UFC. Logan would likely need to do the same thing, continuing his winning ways, otherwise his boxing career would be short-lived, and although he'd go down in the history books for knocking out Floyd, he'd likely want to stick to YouTube. Now, in case you guys couldn't tell, I don't see Logan ever knocking Floyd out. As I said, I think Floyd knocks him out in round 2, or he plays very defensively, tires Logan out, and toys with him before finishing him off. I wouldn't be surprised if Floyd starts the fight with his hands behind his back, leading with his head while laughing in Logan's face, knowing as much as he tries, the YouTuber won't be able to land a good shot on him. But who knows? We just gotta wait and see how it plays out. Now, as always guys, let me know your thoughts on this one down below. For now, let's do some comment replies from the video. What if Jake Paul beats Conor McGregor? EJ said Conor took Floyd to 10 rounds, Jake has no chance. I wouldn't say no chance. I mean, look, everyone said that Conor had no chance beating Floyd, and that went 10 rounds. So as we can see, anything is possible. That being said, Conor has been a professional fighter majority of his life, whereas Jake isn't, so there's that. Purple Fidelity said Conor McGregor would pound Paul's face into putty. I don't think so, because he can't he can't do that. He could give him one good shot, and then when he's down, he's down. Unlike the UFC, Conor can't keep, I mean, maybe he will, who knows? We can only hope. I'm just joking, I don't want anybody to get hurt. Alexander Chatham said, nah, he knocked out one guy, let's not get ahead of ourselves. I agree. I mean, technically, he also beat, Enson Gibb, TKO, which, if you saw that guy box, with all due respect, not much of a boxer. And listen, Enson Gibb, if you want to box me, let's do it. I'll agree right now. You don't have to sign anything. Right now, we'll do it. I don't have to train, and I can still beat you. He wasn't that good of a boxer, I'm just being honest. Jake, he's got some talent. Can he beat Conor? Don't think so. But we'll have to wait and see. Anyways, guys, that's it for this one. Been your host, Jared Bronstein. We'll see you soon.